Have you ever been victimized by New Age spirituality?
We've been waiting for you. We've been waiting.
You're going to want to listen up.
I'm Megan, an intuitive life coach and Reiki master.
I'm Ryan, a professional astrologer, and we want to show you what spirituality is by talking about what it is not.
Con artist.
Yes.
Snake oil salesman.
There are so many susceptible people out there.
And then they're tainted. They're ruined. They don't want to come back to spirituality.
We still have a lot to learn, and we will humble ourselves and learn, I think, every freaking day. This is Clairannoyance,
a podcast of spiritual interference. Welcome back.
Welcome.
We're still together. Ryan leaves tomorrow. Did you have a nice time?
I did. It's been a nice little visit here.
Exactly.
I got to go to the beach. I got to hang with you.
Yeah.
Got to see my cousin. So on today's episode, we're gonna go a little deeper, you guys. So
maybe a little bit more of a serious tone than you're used to, but worth it.
We're cozied up on the couch here
today. It's a serious topic.
It's a serious topic. We are talking about the A word.
Addiction.
She says it, not me.
I
know.
Yeah, addiction.
Like, can I say it?
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I know.
Exactly.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're talking about addiction. It's a topic that impacts anybody, but definitely it's a thing in the spiritual community.
And a very prevalent theme in my life yesterday. So today is Monday, April 24th. And yesterday was Sunday, April 23rd, was my 5-year no booze anniversary, which is so crazy.
Can we just stop for a moment and say that? That is huge. 5 fucking years sober is major for anybody who's like really dealt with that journey, you know? What's the feeling of celebrating 5 years like?
You know, it's gratitude, but it's just part of my life now. I never thought I'd be, I've had 2 tours with addiction. And so, with both drugs and alcohol. And the first one was with drugs, second one, but I never made the connection that alcohol was truly the issue. It was like drugs are bad. Obviously, that's like ingrained in our head. And then, but booze is so common. And so to me, it was like, oh, that's not an issue. Like I can control that. And because I wasn't a day-to-day drinker, and I was just a binge drinker and just on the weekends, it was like, this is not a problem. Like everything's fine. I'm fine.
And it's so interesting because you always hear, especially like with alcohol, is it the correct thing? Alcoholism? Okay. Especially with alcoholism, I always hear that like, it's a problem when you're drinking every day, you're waking up and you need a shot and you're taking it to work and all of that. So that's not true. Like that's not.
Exactly. Yeah. I never drank by myself. It was just to me, I was like, that's stupid. If I'm going to have a hangover, I want an experience. I'm in it to win it, buddy. Like I want to, let's make some memories. Like, so I wasn't a beer in the shower. I didn't drink beer. I didn't like the taste of alcohol. I'm in it to win it. Like I'm here to get fucked up. I'm not here to just like sip on this nonsense. But it was a slow progression with booze where it was like, oh, this is a problem. Like I'm creating problems.
What was the impetus 5 years ago for you to be like, this has to end?
So for that 2017, I really was like in it to win it. And I was going on, like I worked hard. And so then it was like Saturday would roll around and I'd be like, it's game time, people. And things just kept escalating because that's just my nature. I just push. So I kept escalating. And I started around October of 2017 to get like this tap from God, Spirit, Universe, Divine that was like, you need to slow down. And I was like negotiating like, okay, but listen, I'm doing great work here in the community. Okay. So I'm an energy healer. I work 6 days a week. I'm helping people. Like I deserve this. It's okay. It's just like one night. But then the one night turned into, a Charleston weekend, which could be Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and sometimes Thursday. And, that's a majority part of your week. I just kept rationalizing and then negotiating. I felt I was negotiating with the universe, not myself. I was like, but what about this? And then January of 2018 happened and I stopped having fun drinking and going out. And that's a unique experience because if you're not having fun, while you're wasted and you're around people that you love, what are you doing? Like, what is the point here? I don't enjoy the taste. What am I doing? But I kept going. I couldn't get off the ride. And I thought I was okay because I would take booze breaks. So I'd be like, okay, guys, I'd make this big announcement. I'm not drinking for 4 to 6 weeks. Do not ask freak nasty whitey two guns out to the bar. Okay. Don't do it. I'm not coming out. And so I was like, yeah, look at this amazing self-control. Okay. Like I can totally take a break for 8 weeks. I was coming off of some music festivals that year. I'd gone on the Groove Cruise, which is an EDM. I mean, I had a really good time. Like that whole year, I went to Fantasy Fest in Key West that year. All these bucket list items. It was like I was given this opportunity to say goodbye. And Friday rolled around. It was the 21st. It was a buddy's birthday. And I started off this weekend, and I was taking Jaeger bomb shots, and I endangered a lot of people with my behavior that day. And didn't know about it. And then Sunday was a buddy's wedding anniversary, their first wedding anniversary. And they were having a brunch and, a boozy brunch. So, of course, I'm only going to have 4 drinks. And then that 4 turned into 8. And then I became aware of what I did on Friday because I blacked out, that's why we called freak nasty whitey two guns. This wasn't Megan. You were dealing with a whole different beast, bud. So this wasn't me. And then all my friends, everyone left to go to this other festival that I didn't have tickets. So I got home that night and I had been out for 12 hours day drinking. And I said to my husband, I was like, look how good I've been. I've only been out 12 hours drinking and I'm home at a reasonable time. And that didn't go over well. He was like, no. And this had been a contentious issue. I had been approached by other people. My parents, hey, slow it down. And then I woke up that morning at 4:00 in the morning with the worst anxiety and panic I felt that I've ever felt. I was pacing the halls of our apartment. And I was like, at that, I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And it slapped me. And that panic lasted all week.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Of am I really done now?
Just dread and doom. And because, drunk me didn't care what sober me had to deal with. I sat with it. I told my immediate people. And then I was like, I'm going to make a public announcement because you will not catch me sleeping on my word. This is not going to be an issue. And that was that turned out to be false.
No, oh, no.
I was like, I didn't realize how much I identified and how my identity was wrapped up in being this party girl. And so, and then the real work began. And because I'm such a stubborn son of a gun, I was like, nope, I can do this by myself. And I did, but I do not recommend that. Please seek help. There's so many different options, but I was like, I'm going to do this by myself. And so that first 3 weeks consisted of me living I'm not even joking. I went to work and I lived underneath my bed. I like that. I would create a little cubby and I was like, who am I? Am I still fun? Will people like me? What do I have to offer the world now that I am not this wasted girl on the weekends? And, it was 2018 was a ride. So, and that kicked off the ride.
Damn, dude. That made me think we're gonna put some resources in the show notes as well of suggestions if anybody's struggling. So because you had a moment of just kind of yourself just being like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it. Do you feel like it's like that for a lot of people, or do a lot of people have some very serious event that transpires, or a brush with a medical emergency and then that, or is it just different all around?
Addiction is such a different disease because it's not like cancer where you have to diagnose yourself. And I'd like to clarify too, because it's such a hot topic. I have the gene, because one is too many and 75 isn't enough. But I also it was my choice to drink and do drugs. No one else ever made me, so that's the difference with this, where people are like, oh, addiction isn't a disease. No, there's something in my brain that I can't stop when I start. But it was my choice to do it. I could have been no, I could have listened to the Dare Dog or the Dare program. I did not, which that doesn't work.
In school, I read this essay in front of my whole school about how drugs are just terrible for you.
And later on in the program, you'll see how well that went.
Dare essay award winner.
But I think it, some people will they'll have so many events, and it's like, how do you not see that this is a problem? And everyone's so different. So how you arrive to this journey, and it's such a mind fuck.
What would you recommend for someone who maybe is like, okay, I've got a friend like Megan, white, nasty, two gun, whatever.
freak nasty.
A freak nasty.
Yeah.
Okay, say somebody's got a friend like former you, and they want to do something about it. How do you initiate that? Like, as a caring friend, because I feel like that's also a hard part. You said you've been approached and whatever, but it's like, what would have helped you?
So I had friends who were like, hey, I mean, like, it's a little too far, like this is getting, a little too out of hand. And the way that, just the approach of, I care about you. This is an issue. 9 times out of 10, the person knows that somewhere deep down, somewhere in their psyche, in their conscious, they are aware that things are going too far. But so just providing a safe spot, a safe place for someone, because it's such a tricky road, and everyone's so different. I'm such a stubborn, defiant person. I knew there was an issue, but I wasn't willing to look at it. So you could okay, thank you so much for caring about me. I love you so much. I promise you, I got this. And so what are you going to do? Not be around me, not talk to me, not love me? Yeah, right. So you just have to provide that space, and also set personal boundaries for yourself. If you're being abused by a person, obviously, who's wasted, then that's not acceptable. But as a person who cares about someone who's in active addiction, you have to set those personal boundaries before, and do it soon. Like, when this happens, I'm going to do this. Because when you're actively in a situation with someone trying to help them, it can become very confusing, and just always I'll seek guidance. I mean, there's so many resources available right now. This isn't as taboo of a subject as it used to be. There's so many people who do struggle with it.
But I guess when you're in that, maybe like the admitting of it to yourself is a difficult thing. So like the desire to seek help, maybe, even if it's readily available, it's like a difficult step to take, even if it's more normalized now, And
I was still so defiant. I was like, I'm going to do this by myself. I don't need, like, I can do this. And I did, but it was the hardest thing I've ever done. I mean, it was there's so many ways I could have made this easier on myself. And I didn't do any of that, at all. But the best decision. I mean, we wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be here, personally, professionally. It was the best decision I've ever made.
Hell yeah, I'm sure. I don't know that I've heard from like a recovering addict that hasn't also thought this.
Yeah.
I
had the greatest times. I had so many fun memories. It just got out of hand. So, and then when you start ruining people's good times, like, their time is the most valuable commodity we have. And when I can't control myself and I'm telling you the business, I'm reading your energy and telling you what I think. And, like, you don't want to hear that. You're just trying to have a nice time. Or when I'm infringing on people's time and wasting that. And then, hello, I'm an energy healer. So I'm out here 6 days a week helping people. And then you see me at the bar and I'm foaming at the mouth.
Yeah.
Doing jazz splits, like flashing people. Like, there was no shame. I mean, I have a message from a lady that I love dearly, and she was like, hey, were you on King Street on Thursday? It was Thursday. We saw it, my kids and I saw you, and they said, hey, look at that lady flashing everyone. I'm down the street. And she was like, man, and the thing is, that looked like a great time. I was so fun. Everyone enabled it. And I also live in such a boozy town. So everyone was like, you don't have a problem. There were only a few select people who said something, because if I had a problem, what does it say about them?
Damn.
So it was an enabling experience. And I lost a lot of friends, a lot of relationships changed. And that was devastating because then that reinforced the belief system. Am I fun? If I don't organize these, weekend debacles, will people still, am I still fun? Do they care about me?
What will we do?
Yeah.
Otherwise.
Exactly. And that was,
that is a
the
thing.
weekends were the worst because that's when I partied.
That's the
so
thing.
Work would be fine. Because I worked during the week, and then I would have Thursday scaries. What am I going to do on Friday, Saturday, especially? Like everyone's out drinking. What do? I can't go. I'm not ready to be around that. How do I do the socialize?
This is a hard thing. I feel that for sure. Cause like I don't have this storyline, I guess, like of addiction necessarily. I've obviously played with many of these things, but that issue of like, most of my friends, we go out on weekends. Mm-hmm. That's it. And we've made plans with and I've had conversations with some of them, like being like, all we do is like go out and like, that's it. But it's kind of what you do in West Hollywood, California, when you're in the gay community. Like, what else is there to do, right? Mm-hmm. And I know that there's a good ass sober community there as well, and there's things to do. But like, I remember like setting up like frisbee golf or just frisbee. I think with some friends, like going to like a museum. We set up once, and it's like then that weekend rolls around and either we got too fucked up the night before, so now we don't want to go the next morning, mm-hmm. or like we just like all conveniently forget and decide, let's just like stay in the part of town where we always are, where we live, and just go to the same bars that we always go to. So it's like it's a hard thing. Even with these people, I don't think any of these people that I'm referring to are like have a substance abuse issue. I just think it's hard to have sober activity. Like, well,
exactly.
I don't know how else to put that. Like, obviously I can, like, mm-hmm. I spent this, well, no, I drank this weekend, but like, but I mean, like, I could like having like more of this spiritual community, right? Like there's purpose and things to do in your sober time. And like anybody can enjoy that, even whether you're not spiritual, I don't really care. There's other things you can do, but I guess like, it's so interesting how communities or friendship groups enable that constant going out, getting fucked up together feeling, because it is so fun. It is so fun.
And I live in Charleston, which is a party town. So even saying like, oh, I'm going to do a bike ride, it's totally normal to go up on a bike ride and have a cocktail. If I were to say like, oh yeah, Saturday morning, like going out on the boat, I cracked one, people would be like, hell yeah. Which is also why I started these monthly, events in the area, because people were like, they were quitting drinking and they're reaching out. How do I make friends? Mm-hmm. If I'm not a white girl wasted at the bar, oh, I gotta lie, you're so pretty, you're so pretty. Mm-hmm. Like, how do I make friends? So I was like, well, I can fix this. And it's creating this community because people are starting to question, why is booze so integrated into the American culture the way it is? Why is it, like, why is this shoved down our throats? Mm-hmm. And so, and for that, I'm grateful, that this narrative is happening and changing and that people are talking about it.
Hell yeah. It's a thing like all over TikTok. I'm even seeing, this is like a funny thing. Like this is my Aquarius rising. You're getting to know like a thing about me. Aquarius rising in my mind is like the devil's advocate. Like you are always, whether you agree with someone or not, you're just immediately going to be looking at like, but there's an alternative stance I could take here, right? There's like something else you're not considering. So let me present you with a counterpoint just for fun. It's like sport. It can be very useful and strategic, but sometimes it's just pointless. But anyway, I on TikTok see like all these kids like talking about how like we're entering this like sober era, how so many kids are just deciding to stop drinking because it's unfulfilling, and like it's like Gen Z driving this conversation, right? I think that's really interesting and it's cool, but it's so funny because I see these like mass trends all the time.
Yeah.
That are like, I'm like, oh well, I just finished that phase though.
Yeah.
Like now I'm not in that phase anymore. So like cool that you're all on it. But this is also just in my life experience, like, and it's an Aquarius thing. It's the early adopter, or like they call it the trendsetter. I'm not going to identify myself as a trendsetter, but it's like you kind of go through a thing before the mass culture goes through it. It's funny because you watch everybody go through these things that you just went through. It was also kind of sucks because people don't understand it when you're going through it yourself. Like I remember being unemployed and nobody really giving a fuck, and then all of a sudden they're all unemployed and I'm like, oh, doesn't it suck now? Like, damn it. Anyway, so it's funny because like I just came out of this sober phase Like, I mean, not just, it's now a year ago, but like now it really has been like this thing. Like, I feel like for the past like 6 months, this growing movement of sobriety in younger generations. And it's such an interesting conversation.
It really is. It really is. And that, I mean, like my stepdaughter, she doesn't, I mean, she's never drank. And she's like, you know, she's never had an interest. I was like 16, like, where is it? Where the party at? Where the party at? Like, you know, so it's wild to see. And I also think to that point that you said about going through things first, that's also a healer thing too. You know, like we kind of have to go through it first, you know.
It is. No, it's true, because there are so many of these people who were like jobless and directionlessness. And I was like, okay, I know exactly what to do. I'm literally practically know the resources available to you, but like also spiritually here, like things I've learned and how you can work through like these things or whatever, right? For sure. And like, I don't know. Yeah, it's just interesting. I'm just saying, like, I would caution anyone. I mean, do what you want. Of course, it's a healthy decision to be like, I'm going to stop drinking. Great. Like, amazing. But just from the patterning I've seen in so many of these waves, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, like you might be sober and really fucking thoroughly enjoy it, just like I did for a couple years, you know?
But it's okay if you then, like, so for me, it's not okay. Like, I can never drink again. I will never drink again. But if people can safely engage, meaning that they're not going to hurt themselves, you know, besides like maybe a hangover and others, then yeah, go for it. Because the appeal of booze and you know, drugs is that it takes that anxiety, that fear, and you can just kind of it takes that. But the problem is that then you just, you know, someone like me takes it too far.
Well, anything in excess, right? Like, this is also Jupiter. Like, we could talk about the astrology of this any given day. Also, but guess who's a Pisces? Guess who's a Pisces? Guess who dated a Pisces? Me, who was an alcoholic. And I mean, he was sober the entire time. He had gotten sober like right before we got together, but he was also a reason that why I basically like barely did anything. Like, I would drink every once in a while, you know, but I essentially stopped drinking for like a couple years. You know, it's just, but like, it's a Piscean thing, very much so. It's a water sign, right?
Escape. Yeah. It's just like, oh yeah, like that, it eases that edge, and then I can just. But and I also don't have a lot of fucks. You need to give a fuck. So when I only have about 4 fucks to give, and then you add that in, I got no fucks, and that's a problem. But I think that you know, like I think twice before, you know, commanding the dance floor. I'm like, you know, these are not solid dance moves that I'm about to engage in. You know, I do miss that.
Yeah, and like it obviously lowers the blocks that we have. I've had so many incredible conversations with people. Of course, sometimes it's with many things. You may get like closer with someone than you want to, and then the next day it's awkward and you're like, oh, you just like really opened up or trauma bonded or something. Like, those things can happen, of course. Doesn't make it bad though that you got vulnerable with someone. And also, like, it's amazing, it's kind of a beautiful thing when you go through something like that, and then the next day you can honor and respect that. Like, I have had numerous relationships deepen because of alcohol or another drug lowering that inhibition, right? And like letting us just be a little freer with each other and
that's what it is. It's lowering inhibitions.
And it's nice. I don't know, like for me, it's nice. Like, I don't thank God, I hope not, knock on wood, don't have that or the addiction gene or the brain issue. I know, like, I mean, obviously I got like really into it because my ex was an addict. So I was interested in like understanding triggers and like, how does that work in someone and whatever. But
and the interesting thing about a trigger too is that scientifically it only lasts like 10 to 15 seconds. So if you can get yourself off the brain loop and like switch gears, so get up. If you're craving something, move, clap your hands, redirect, go for a walk, and take some deep breaths, because that and the way it catches my chest. And like when I see people, for instance, like if I go out and like so my friend Tessa, she bartends, she's a sober bartender. So I'll go see her sometimes. And I love taking shots. I was a shot monster. I loved Rumplemans. So I'd have fresh breath. Yeah, I'd have fresh breath. And then I'd also black out. I mean, I moonwalk off a table, like in like restaurants and bars. I was just like, watch this. And, you know, my guardian angels are probably like, bitch, thank you. Thank you. But I loved taking shots. It was the community, like, yeah, we're doing this together. So when I see people taking shots, I get sad, So now I just take like a shot of Red Bull. The addiction side of me, now I hit caffeine. I'm like, let's see if I can fly this morning. I just have no chill. I'm either 0 or 100. I do not I logically understand the concept of moderation. I do not know how to practically apply it to my life. And it's just not there.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, that's probably the more universal thing with an addict of any kind, right? Whether it's like a weekend type or like you're doing it all day, every day,
Well, and here's the flip side too. I now, after, about a year later, I love being an addict. And let me tell you why. I've taken this energy and I am a fucking force, buddy. I've done this now twice alone. There's nothing I can't do. So I have now taken this drive, this obsession that is just innately in me, and I've applied it to bettering myself and just going balls to the fucking walls on life, on business, on creation. And so that same energy that almost took me down is directly responsible for the success that you see today.
I mean, that's fucking beautiful. And what's so interesting? I hear that story a lot too from people of like, the day I finally went sober, it all fucking changed. Like my fate and luck changed. There was this one guy I dated like a few years back who was a comedian working in LA, and he had like done like a couple funny things, like, and well, now at that point he was like kind of getting big. He's like got like a show now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but so I was like, wow, like you're sober. Like what happened? He was like, I don't know. Like I was sucking at everything I was doing and like it was fun, but like I just whatever. And the day he like stopped, it was like the next day he stopped, he like got some like really big break through work. It was just like boom. And then he just never turned back. And he was like, everything just got better. And he's like, I don't know what that is. And he's not a spiritual person. It just was what it was.
Yeah.
But he believed there was some weird shift that happened there in my willpower to just stop. I think that's an interesting thing. I think that's a spiritual thing personally. I'm not going to project that onto him and like make him believe that. But like, I think that when you are what is the almost like relinquishing, surrendering a vice, all of this is Piscean energy, by the way, as well. Like it's 12th house energy where we surrender or have vices or addictions. These concepts are hand in hand. Like you need to surrender what makes you escape like the reality of life. And when you give that type of thing up, quote unquote, like God blesses you. It's sort of like why like I think like a nun would give up like all sorts of worldly pleasures, right? Because they receive some level of spiritual blessing from it. Like that's their journey, whatever. I hope so too. I don't know. I know in many cases, I think many of them were forced into deaths, but like weird example, I guess. But you know what I'm saying? It's interesting.
It really is.
Surrendering an addiction. An addiction is like basically a devil. I mean, you look at it in the tarot, it's the devil card where temptation and addiction exists. It is a devil. It's a demonic type of energy in that sense. If you can like fight that demon and overcome it, fucking great,
And I mean, there's so many, you just see how it takes people out, I mean, especially with the epidemic of opioids. And it's just, I mean, I'm just so grateful to be here today.
Oh my God. Yeah. And now it's like so nefarious now. It's like with fentanyl and like, you gotta be so damn careful. Like it is.
Yeah.
That shit is.
It's terrifying. It's just not worth it.
Yeah. It's really not worth it. So I think it's interesting, like that you leave addiction and find spirituality. How does that transition happen? Like what was
So my first tour, because I call it tours. So my first tour of addiction, I was 26. And I was in, and we'll probably talk about this at a later date, but to make a long story short, I was in a lifestyle. I call it my past life because it's just such a separate difference. And I was a rave promoter and did events. And I was in bars 24/7, 7 days a week. And my first spiritual kind of experience is I came home from a night and I was talking with Josh, and all of a sudden, like he was like, listen, you got a problem. Like there's some problems here. And so he starts talking, and I assume he's giving me like a Rudy speech, like if you've ever seen Rudy, the movie, which is very inspirational. I highly recommend it. Anyway, I have no idea what the man said because all of a sudden in my mind, I thought I was losing my mind. A screen played and showed me where I was going to go if I didn't get my shit together. And I said, well, that is a wrap. So I called my business partner the next day and I was like, yeah, I'm going to have to pull the plug on all this. And we were doing quite well. I was like, later, skater. And I sat for 3 months. I mean, my whole life that first time got ripped. Everything and everything I thought I was, who am I? What am I doing? My job, my identity, so I'm sitting around and one day I got a thought process and I'm just so confused and lost. I mean, that was such a time. And it's like I said, I'm 26. You barely know who you are when you're 26 anyway, looking back. And I called my buddy and one of my childhood friends, Valerie, and I hadn't talked to her in years, just got a nudge to call her. And so we're catching up. It had been a few years. And she's like, holy shit, like, what's up? And she tells me, this is before ayahuasca was popular, that she had been bouncing around in Peru, drinking this special sauce, this wild vine, doing all this work on herself, and with all these shamans. And my mind was blown. She took me to a new land. And then she said, at the end of the conversation, love you, I love you. And she goes, by the way, you're a healer. Gotta go. Bye. And I'm like,
how do they do that?
When she's an Aquarius, she was born on Valentine's Day. So I said, oh my Lord, what in the fuck are you talking about? So then I hit her back like, bitch.
Like, you can't just sort of like bless my life like that and then fucking leave.
So yeah. And I remember, so I was like, okay, I'm going to try this thing. So I start like thinking about her really hard. And I was like, contact me. And she texted me randomly a few days later. And I was like, at this point, I'm like, what is happening? So she gives me some resources. And then I run into another woman I know, a witch. And she was like, hey, there's this spiritual healing festival at the Danny Jones Center, which never really happened again. So I go and I'm cruising around and there's this lady and she's like, you come here. And so she's got these crystal wands and Josh was looking at them. So I go up and she's like, your grandmother is behind you, my mom's mom. And so I think I come from a line of healers, though it was just not a time that we knew about. She described my grandma June, hair, shoes, like she's like, she has a message for you, pretty much this is where you need to be going, lady. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Can I? And so I buy this crystal wand. And my grandma June is with me all the time. I mean, I get like, I've got goosebumps now because any medium that I see is like, there's this lady behind you. And I've never met her, but they're like, she's just like, she's behind you, pushing you. So then I'm like, okay, great. I'm supposed to be a healer. My grandma June tells me, who I've never met. I've got where do you go? There was no resources. It's still quite closeted. So I'm getting frustrated. I'm bartending at this dive bar that I can't stand. It's just miserable. So I say, all right, God, universe, if I'm a healer, like send me a teacher. I need help. 3 days later on a Tuesday, on the most slowest shift, on the hottest day, this lady walks in. Her name's Chandler. She sits in my bar. I gave her a apple beer, a cider beer. And I was like, what's your story? How are you? She goes, oh, I'm an energy healer. And I pissed my pants. I was like, ma'am, Miss ma'am. And coincidentally, she had just been given she had to do 500 hours of seva, which is selfless acts for humanity, which means that she had some community service to do essentially. And I got to train under her for free for the next year. And that does not happen. That does not.
Not anymore.
Does not. And she gave me such a wonderful, she exposed me to a community that I learned a lot from. I mostly learned what not to do from a lot of these people. Which was a lesson within itself. And it just from there, it just took off. I became a Reiki practitioner underneath her. Then we kind of, with your teacher, if you have a teacher and you study in that capacity, at some point you will separate. And I remember her saying like, at some point we're going to grow apart. And I was like, no, never, no, like, what are you talking about? And that did happen. And we're in contact today. But yeah, that's how this path started, July of 2012.
Yeah. Of course, it's a 2012 thing
I
too.
know.
It's such a moment of awakening. Like it really was. It really was.
I was so lost though. That whole like so when I think back about that, it was just like you arrived to spirituality. I mean, I needed it. But I didn't know what I needed. I was so confused. And that's the passion behind this podcast, is because I was so lucky to find the real deal. You know, like I was so lucky to find people of integrity. And because this is such an unregulated space, there are so many people who are not aligned in integrity. And that's what pisses me off the most, because this spirituality changed my life. Addiction, you know, I had my first tour, boom. But spirituality is what got me through the second round when I quit drinking 5 years ago. It is what, and it like, that was this innate belief, you know, me talking, crying to God, you know, like, what do I do? Where do I go? And just know, you know, like, you got it. And the people who are, you know, pretending or, you know, or scamming people in this, boy, I'm coming for you, because this changed my life. I wouldn't be here without it.
No. Yeah, no. Yeah, I think it like saves so many people, especially because were you raised religious at all?
I was raised Catholic.
Yeah. I feel like so there's like a veil that or like the wool is pulled over your eyes when that's the case. And so them coming across a spiritual life that's like kind of basically non-denominational, essentially. It's just different, and it's so mind-blowing because you didn't know that the experience of it was so much bigger than what you were told, you know? And it's like, no wonder why that never fit for me like before, and knew that this wasn't real or right for me. And maybe that's right for some people. I don't know. I just think it's really interesting. Even in that sense, it's just so funny. Like, I don't like demonizing these substances, right? Like at any substance in general, like fucking Jesus. All y'all Christians, Jesus turned water to wine, bitch. They were drinking in the Bible. They loved them some liquor. So, yep, some syrup. So it's like, it's a thing. It's not demonic, right? Not if the Savior himself was sitting here spreading it around. Like, good God, right? So I don't know. I think it's really interesting. I think it's interesting that you had a big kickstart moment with someone who was doing ayahuasca, another drug, right? Like, I mean, it's like there are these divine things that you can get in with drugs. I do think, like, of course, I think I can minimize what I was initially going to say on this a little bit, but like, liquor is probably the most controversial one as far as discussing it in like any sort of spiritual manner. Because so many people who are in the spiritual space will tell you liquor is low vibrational. And it's like, I know what you're saying, but like, also that's like, there's no way to prove that. So like, this is not, you cannot literally measure vibration, really you cannot scientifically. So like, what do you mean? Like, just because it brings out a darkness in you, or you see it happen in other people? What it is. Like, I get it, and yes, of course, it's like, and it's enabled me, and when I'm already in a bad space, right, to like go deeper into that negative mindset or something. But otherwise, like this past year, I've been very much on my liberated mindset. Liquor has re-socialized me into life after a traumatic event. Like, I'm just so happy that I decided to start going back out again and drinking again, and I'm still on that train, and I'm having so much fun with it. But I don't have the addiction mechanism within me. Thank God. I can stop at a moment's notice. I really like don't care. There's no like everybody's got a too much point, I guess, but there's no like one's too much, 75 not enough. 5.
You can stop at a moment's notice. Like, there were times where I would be out and people would call Josh and be like, you need to come get her. And one time I was at an oyster roast, and the bar was 3 stories, and so like I was like, well, good luck catching me, motherfuckers. And like, and I mean, I had my guy friends chasing me all around, and then it became a game to me. I'm like, you'll never catch me, you know. But that was not fun for them.
No.
You know, like, I'm running away from people that care about me, who are trying to get me safely home.
Totally. And it's like, I know what that's like. That's how I also feel like I know that that's just not a real thing for me. Is like, there have been moments where I'm like real drunk and and I'm seeing this in someone else, and then you care so much about them. You're like, I can handle this. No, I'm not in my right state of mind, etc. Like,
but you cannot. Yeah.
There are those people you just know. So I just think it's interesting, and I would like caution anybody to like, don't judge someone just because they're drinking or getting drunk even. I'm like, if it's a trigger for you, then of course, like, don't book me for an astrology reading. If you're like, Ryan's a partier, he's gonna like go out next weekend, I can't get a reading from him.
Well, but like, no, actually, you should book him, because that's crazy. Just because if something triggers you when you see it in someone else, that's an unhealed aspect, something you got to work on within yourself. Because I see a lot of people actually like flaming assholes, and they don't ever bother me. And then if I see one particular asshole and their behavior bothers me, then that's something I need to work on.
So true. And this is so funny that this is coming back around because we were talking about this last night. It's literally like, and you get to disclose as to the level that you want to, of course, but like you're not going to go to a seafood restaurant and order fucking shrimp, right? And then be like, wait, but I have a shellfish addiction, or like, addiction, a shellfish, like,
shrimp down.
Yeah, allergy. Like you can't, or whatever. Like if that, you have to disclose your allergy, right? So like the person taking care of you knows to do it in the right way. Similarly, if you're booking a reading with someone, if you have like an addiction issue, if you have a problem, this is why there's that box when you book me to be like, additional information.
Yeah.
Like, what else do I need to know? If you have that, then of course I'm going to take care of that in a nice way. And I'm not going to be like talking about like, oh no, but you can drink and like, no, I don't. Of course, no, of course not. This is like, I would never want somebody who's an addict to be re-engaging in their addictive behavior.
You need to be honest with your doctor. You need to be honest with your therapist, energy healer, astrologer. So you can get the best out of these sessions. I mean, otherwise, what's the point?
I think it's so fascinating. And so it's so interesting, I think, like that dichotomy of you can like find spirituality through a journey of addiction, right? Like coming out of it, and then spirituality comes into focus. On the flip side, I think it's really interesting that there are so many ways of exploring spirituality and accessing it.
Exactly.
Through the use of
not one size fits all. And that's what also, like, we have to stop demonizing that. And, like if you see someone drunk, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're an alcoholic. If someone is mean to you, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a narcissist. So there's these, stop diagnosing yourself. Like unless like I said, if you're ruining yourself and your own lives, addiction is a self-diagnose. So it's an interesting kind of juxtaposition. Because addiction, you do have to diagnose yourself with addiction, but stop diagnosing everyone else. Worry about you.
Yeah. And I think like, great, if you are genuinely concerned about someone, I think like probably best to pull them aside in quiet, like rather than in front of a bunch of other people while everybody's fucked up. Pull them aside. Give them that safe space of caring. Yeah. And if they lash out on you, then okay, but you did what you could. Like, and maybe there's other steps you can take. It's not a one size fits all. Who are you to tell someone else like what they are or are not or whatever, especially with something like that. It goes beyond addiction in that sense. This is like kind of like a bit of a moral of the story here, I think, is like, yes, like Megan self-identifies as I'm an addict, right? I would totally be the type of person that, like, as you saw me the past year, many, 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 many nights and following mornings and everything in between. There
were some wild walks home where I got some fun phone calls.
It's like the sunrise. But what a great life for me. Like, this has been like one of the most memorable, best years of my life. As much as whatever, but it's been a healing year. But alcohol has helped me heal, like, weird.
And that's a hot take.
It's a fucking hot take. And I'm well aware of that, like a sober person who is probably not on a spiritual journey or not like expanding their consciousness in any type of way is probably going to hear me say that and be like, he's an addict. He has a problem and he doesn't know it, And
that's where you need to like stay in your like.
Oh no, fully get it. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, like, full disclosure, I don't really care. I'm like, we have the podcast out. We got to be no filter at this point. Like I was very serious, like couple weeks this year. I forget exactly when this year, but like at some point this year where I was just like doing cocaine like constantly. And it did seriously get to a point where I was just conscious of it. And I was like, am I doing this too
That's
much?
funny you say that, because there was a time where I was like, all right, if another week or two goes by like this, do I say something?
No.
And then you wrapped it, like, and I was like, well, I am going to be like, babe, we got, like, and then, but you reeled it back in.
Yeah. And like I really needed, I forget what that was of specific, like couple of weeks, but there was like a
hell of a drug, man. I mean, that was my, like booze and cocaine go together like PB&J, baby.
Totally.
Like you want to keep rolling.
The upper and the downer. So you're getting the best of both, and it just keeps you going. I don't know, man. But like, yeah, I pulled myself out of it, but I put the precautions in place. Like, this is how I really know I can ask for help, no problem. I literally talked to one of my best friends, was like, you need to tell me if this is getting out of hand or something. Talked to my brother who lives in town with me and was like, you need to like talk to me. Like, if something's going on, I will come to your place. Like, I like put these precautions in place myself. Like, I gave people permission to do this. So that's how I knew it wasn't a problem. And it was basically at that point too, where I was like, okay, maybe don't need to do that so much anymore,
These precautions in place, then perhaps there is. No, maybe I'm taking a little too far.
No, well, it was more though, so the fact that like I really wasn't addicted to it. I could easily just like not do cocaine again at that point. It was more just like that I was losing sleep. I was just going. I
think a lot of people will never admit that, because cocaine is still so taboo. But most people, I mean, I can think of one person that I know that hasn't done it. Like with, like,
oh yeah, I think so many people.
Yeah, and it's still said such this like, oh no, you don't want to talk about it in this. People don't want to talk about it in this public space, but all y'all are doing it. Everybody.
And I would honestly, like, that's one of those things too nowadays that's like, you need to be fucking careful if you're doing 100%. It. That has fentanyl like crazy. Like, I thank God I have like somebody I really trust, like really do. But like, you got to be careful. You need to be getting your test kits. You need to be.
If you can afford an 8-ball, you can afford to test your drugs.
Yes, test your drugs and
safely. I mean, like, there's
why am I forgetting the word? Narcan. You need to get like trained on Narcan and like be able to supply that.
And there's a lot of the harm reduction. They're nonprofit. My buddy Ryan Kaufman, he lost his sister, so he started the South Carolina Harm Reduction, and they will give you, Narcan kits for free, or they have them at CVS, and you can. And you will save a life. Have it on you. Yes.
Like it's so important right now. Like so many kids are dying from this.
It's insane.
So sad. We'll do a whole separate episode on more of like a plant medicine angle, because I think that's just like it deserves.
Because I do smoke weed, and that's the thing is that I
don't. Yeah, isn't that funny? I don't like it anymore.
Like weed. Like I have had some amazing spiritual experiences on mushrooms at concerts.
Oh God, yeah.
Where I'm just like, I've unlocked some secret code. So I do. That's why I call myself California sober, because I do smoke weed. There's never been an issue there, I can eat mushrooms, but I have it doesn't call me like booze and cocaine.
This was my ex too. He was the same. He could do plant medicine, right? And it's different. It's like of the earth. These are things that grow naturally everywhere. So yeah, it makes sense for sure. Shrooms, killer. I don't like the chemical stuff though too. Like personally, I don't know, but it's. Well, I don't know. I mean, you got to be careful with it.
That's why I could. Then that's where it was. But cocaine's just. I like to be awake. I'm high energy, so it's like. But then the funny thing is, had a problem with cocaine. That was my first. My first tour with addiction was drugs. Cocaine was that. I have ADHD. I don't abuse my Adderall ever. So it's this wild thing where it's like. And I know people who aren't able to do either. But if I see a buddy and I know they have a bag and I'm out, still to this day, my chest will be like, oh, because I loved it.
Do you know? I loved it. Hated it. I had tried it many times over many years. Hated it. Every time I was always like, what the hell is the point of this? I think it was just always like kind of mid Coke or something. I don't know. This past year though, finally found someone that was like, well, yeah, I see what this is.
There was a time too. So when I first quit too, my drug dealer he was like, I think when your drug dealer's like, you might need to. I care about you.
Yes, that's a good, because they're going to be liable too if something dead fucking serious. a good drug dealer is gonna care for sure.
That's so true. It feels like an oxymoron.
No, I
To be honest.
know.
But it's exploring this other aspect. Because say you're vanilla, vanilla Val, and you've never done it, and you've been taught all these things. Like there are human beings on all aspects and all sides of this, and the people that I've seen who have gotten into dealing, they were doing it to support their family.
Oh God, yeah, it's like a huge way of getting out of debt. Like they need that.
It was for them to get out of poverty.
Yes,
to get out of the
huge. Oh my God, it's so important. Yeah.
So it's just it's stop demonizing people, and see people all ask from the addict to how people get into this. It's such a complex issue, and there's no right or wrong with this.
No, everybody's on their own separate journey. I think like the best thing that anybody can do is consciously be like walking that journey, like consciously understanding where they're at in life and what they're engaging in and the behaviors. Like, of course, there's always the subconscious like patterning that you're not aware of. But if you're at least consciously trying to be aware of what's unconscious, like that's important too. I don't know. It's just the growth, like that anybody.
It's funny you say that because the way quitting cocaine cold turkey was booze and blow were very difficult. But I just started telling myself, my friend Tara, who's a doctor, she had said that her patients, when she was doing her rotation, she was like, get out of that routine. So she was like, and also stop obsessing over it. And I was like, okay, easier said than done. But I thought about that. And then I just started saying like, I don't like these things. And when I tell you that the mental obsession and the, and then the heart cravings, and if you're an addict, the heart cravings are it just grabs your chest and it's like, I just want a little taste of it. Oh my God. It can wreck you, but you breathe through those cravings. And then I say, I don't even like that. I don't like that. I don't want that.
You're retraining the brain. And
100%.
Yes. Like amazing. I feel like we'll get our guy, shaman on eventually here to like talk through some of this. Cause I would like to ask him about I mean, so much of this, but like have always been curious about like, why don't I have the addict thing? I don't think it runs in my family. I don't know anybody in my family who's struggled with anything like this. And I know it is like a gene situation like that, but also it's like, I would have been a prime candidate. I started so early, like in high school with LSD was my first, like, are you kidding me? Like I went all in, but there was like some, like, this is why I want to talk to like somebody like a shaman or, about this specifically, because I'm like, there's always been some level of protection around me when it comes to these things. In high school, I don't know how to live in a spiritual life at all, but something before taking that and before taking every new drug that I took moving forward, I was always like obsessively looking up like how to get the benefits, like how to avoid any sort of negative experience, how to ensure like a spiritual experience from it. And it was life-changing every time that I would do one of these new.
It's insane because I
don't know I don't know what compelled me to do that instead of just have fun. And I had friends even that that age that were like doing shrooms and they were going to see Miley Cyrus in concert. And I'm like, I don't want that. Like, I'm not doing this for that. I'm doing this for me, but I don't know what compelled me to do that. So I want to like talk and like, that's, I feel like why I didn't also have an addictive nature with it or experience, because it wasn't this like, I didn't equate any of this to fun and going out and shit. It was more of this like thing that I was like, I could tell I wanted some like life change in me because I knew that that's what it was capable of doing. That's so what fascinating. I wanted. But why? So I want to know, like, because I don't know where that comes from. That was an unconscious thing, angels guiding me or something. So I want to talk to a shaman. So we'll talk about that. We've got one. I'm
so excited about talking to him.
Yeah, I think this is such a cool topic. Well, I don't want to go on too much longer here, but I do want to say again, congrats on your 5-year.
Thank you.
So beautiful. So good.
And I just want to say that, if you are struggling with this, please don't suffer. Like if you're not, even if you know there's a problem and you're not ready to quit, there are people that you can talk to. It can be such an isolating experience. And so please, like don't do this alone. That's one thing I wish I would have relied on people a little bit more. And because 2018 didn't have to be as brutal as it was. So you're not alone. And you can do this. And also, and one last thing about, I think opioids are such a wild ride. And even if you don't have the gene, those motherfuckers will get you.
Those are,
yeah,
I will that's something I will never touch.
Yeah,
I will never touch that.
Such a different, such a different, I mean, because whether you have the gene or not, those things are going to take you.
They're literally designed for that. Yeah. Like I will never touch it because I know myself, and I know myself to know that I would like it too much. I will never let myself. There will never be a day.
And to everyone who I'm gonna get emotional, but to everyone who stood by me, I know, but I'm so grateful for the community that I have, and I love all of you so much. So thank you.
I'm grateful for them too, because I didn't know Megan at this time, but I know Megan now, and so I know what those people obviously mean, because who you are is who you're with, and they did a whole lot to make you such a beautiful person. Oh my God, I love it. Okay.
Well, I love you all. Thank you guys for listening. We'll have resources in the show notes.
And the buzzword,
Schnozberry.
So
if you've gotten this far, please comment on socials and text Ryan and me.
No, it's fine.
No, it's not.
Oh yeah, no. Well, I'm just sort of thinking, like, if you're just coming across this podcast, you probably don't have our numbers to text us. Just comment on social.
So if you've listened so far, the top secret keyword, we drop a keyword at the end of every episode, is Schnozberry.
Yes, because we're wondering, like, who's getting this far. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Ryan, for a great podcast. We are so happy and grateful to be doing this.
Oh my God, we are so happy. Thank you for listening. Review it, please. Like it, share it, etc. It really would help us. Yeah. Follow.
Yeah,
really would matter so much. Okay, we will see you again very soon.
Thank you for letting me talk about my story.
Oh my God, thank you for sharing it. Like, thank you for existing.
Thank you.
All right, we'll probably fuck around next time.
Find out.